Good morning, YouTube. It is Saturday the 26th of December. It's the day after Christmas. So I hope everybody had a great Christmas. I hope you enjoyed that video of us sawing on our new tracking wheels. Today, it is too cold outside. I don't think it's going to hit 24 for a high today. That's going to be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not worth trying to start up all that equipment just to cut a couple logs. So I am in the workshop today. So this is a little project that I put on the back burner, and everybody's guilty of that. And it's just a little cabinet. It's going to be 16 inches deep, 66 inches long, and 34.5 inches high, which is standard cabinet height. So we're going to get started on this little project. I've already milled up some cherry. So the first step we're going to get started on is we're going to cut the face frame. And this is a frame cabinet, rails and stiles, and that's what they call traditional style. So I'm not going to get too detailed on this project. I'm going to try to give you the basics, just a more or less a plywood construction type of cabinet. Maybe later on we'll get a real extensive look into how to build a cabinet. So you'll get some face frames, some pocket holes, a little bit of door making, drawer making. So you'll get a good basics on this. I'm not sure how many parts I'm going to put this video in yet, so this is part number 1, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, the first step is to cut our stiles. And on this cabinet here, I went ahead and pre-cut the grooves that are going to accept the sides of the cabinet. So on each side, you can see that I had cut that groove in, or I leave 1/2 inch remaining, so when I cut the sides at 15.5, it'll be a 16-inch cabinet. I got the stop set at 30.5, which will give us a 4-inch toe kick, which will be a 34.5 inch high cabinet. So we're going to square one in and cut them to length. Keep these 2 scraps that come off of your rails or your stiles, because these are going to be used in the next step when we get our 66-inch length on the cabinet. We're going to use these to deduct with, and it will be real easy, no math involved. So we'll set the guide at 66. We'll put this against the stop, and that automatically takes away that distance, so we end up with the proper size cabinet. We'll go ahead and get everything cut, and we'll see you at the workbench. Okay, we're back. We have all the parts cut. We got the stiles and rails and all the centers. Everything's all made up. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this together with pocket hole technology. And I happen to have a Craig Foreman in our shop. So our next step is we're going to head over to the pocket hole machine, and anywhere a piece intersects into another piece, there'll be 2 pocket holes here, there'll be 2 up here, there'll be 2 here, 2 here, so on and so forth. So we'll go ahead and get all the pocket holes in the wood. We'll show you how we do that, and then we'll come back and we'll assemble this face frame, and then it'll be time to start cutting actual cabinet parts. So we'll see you at the pocket hole machine. Okay, I'm at the pocket hole machine now, and what this does is this has a drill bit that comes out from the bottom, and this dog that comes down and holds the board tight. You want to make sure that you keep your top surface up, because it's going to be cutting from underneath. And this one here has stop set up on it, so I got everything predetermined where I want it. So all you do is put it against the stop where you want it. You're going to pull the handle down. That'll do one side. And then here's your finished product. And what we'll do is these little screws right here, these are actual pocket hole screws. This will hold everything together with a little bit of glue. So we'll go ahead and finish cutting these pockets, and we'll talk to you at the workbench. Okay, we're doing some assembly here. And basically, all you really want is just a little bit of glue. When I mean a little bit, I mean a little bit. You don't need much. And I made a little spacer block because this is going to be the actual depth of the drawer. So you want to keep that space in there. Then there's a special clamp that Craig makes, which really makes things very easy to assemble. So making sure you got that nice and lined up. Clamp that tight. And then you want to run your pocket holes in, but don't go over tight on these. I mean, you want them till they pull tight. Impact guns have a tendency to go way too tight, so you got to have a little bit of. You got to listen to the sound of the tool, and we'll just keep moving on down the line here. And as you can see, this will just repeat itself, spacing all the way down, and then we'll end up with all 3 drawers identical size. And you'll see later on where that comes in handy. When you're making anything that's spaced like this, when you start making your drawer boxes and you got one in the middle, it's a different size. Now you got to recalculate a drawer size, and then you got parts to keep track of. So if you can make them all the same size, take the extra minute and make sure it all works out even. So we'll catch you here in a little bit. Okay, I went ahead and cut the sides and the back for the cabinet. Before this is ready to put together, and this is all it's going to do, it's going to go into this slot with glue, and it's going to get toe-nailed with some brad nails, and that's basically what's going to hold the sides onto the actual cabinet. But there's a few things we have to do first. We got to do some machining. We got to cut a slot, top and bottom. And then we got to cut a slot on the back, which is in 3/4 of an inch, and this back's going to be 1/2 inch thick. So 1/4 inch of this is what they call scribe. Just in case the walls are out a little bit and you got to bring that cabinet in nice and tight, you'll have sacrificial material there that you can go ahead and take off with the belt sander. And this is just nothing more than a series of holes, and they are for the shelf pins, which will hold the shelves. Since it has a drawer up top, there's no need to run these holes the whole length of the panel, so I just sort of stop a little bit premature. This would give you more than enough room to put shelves in there. So I'll show you over at the router table how we made these slots, and then we'll go over to the drilling press, and then I'll show you how we put all the holes in, and I'll show you alternative ways to do it if you don't have all this fancy equipment like I have, but there are simple ways to do this. So I'll be with you here in a second. Okay, we're over at my homemade router table. Cabinet shops refer to these as plow tables because you're plowing a slot through a piece of wood. What I have is a 9/16 bit. I'm using 1/2 inch board. A lot of people may comment and say, why aren't you trying to make that an exact fit? I guess you never built kitchen cabinets in your life before if you're saying that, because when you have to start beating stuff together while the glue's drying, you have problems. What you want to do is you want to make sure the interior of that cabinet has an absolutely nice finish. So you want to be able to push that panel nice and tight to the interior and then shoot it. So this has a dust extraction, and all it is we made a vacuum pickup, and if you don't have this, you will have big problems. So I have the vacuum cleaner sitting over here, and when I turn this switch on, it turns on the router and the vacuum at the same time. And you know, this is for production, but there are ways you can do these maneuvers with just a hand router and some guides. We can get into that in a later video, but I'm going to show you another way to drill these holes when we're done making a slot. So we'll go ahead and put you guys here in the holder, and I'm going to show you how fast we can do one side panel of a cabinet. So here we go. Now this is predetermined. These are templates to drop in. So this is set up for my wall and base, top and bottom. So this will do the consistent cut every time. My panels are already pre-finished the way I buy them, so the interior has already been finished with a nice clear coat. So we'll go ahead and get started here. We're going to do top and bottom first. Okay, now to the back of the cabinet, we're going to take out this jig, and we're going to put this one in. It's a 9/16 bit. In order to cut a 3/4 inch slot, we got to do it in 2 passes. So I have a spacer already made up We'll stick this out of the way and we'll go ahead and do the back. There's your first pass. There's your second pass. So this is 3/4 inch from here to here. So we'll show you how we drill the holes here in 1 second. All right. The next machine I'm going to show you is it's made by Bloom, and they're mini presses. They can do either, I got one set up, just does the hinge boring, and this one here set up with 7 bits that do line boring. So what you're going to do is you're going to put the panel in here. There's a stop on each end. Now, since we're working off the bottom of the cabinet, since we're only going to drill the pins, we're going to index, you'll see how we do left and right. Once you drill one series of holes, this thing will drop down, pick up a hole that's already been drilled, and continue that pattern on. So I'll put you over here in a holder again, and hopefully you can see a little bit of what's going on here, but we'll try to show you. Oh, what I got to do first is I got to mirror this to the other. Now what I just did here, when the other side meets this one, you got to make sure the back's running in the same place, because if I drilled these wrong, then we'd have 2 lefts or 2 rights. If I was doing a bunch of cabinet parts, that wouldn't be a critical thing. We're going to hit the stop. So we're going to start out with our first set of holes. Release the clamps. And we're going to move up until that stop grabs it. Again, this is for high production shops. The average woodworker out of their garage is not going to own anything close to this, but I've been doing this for, the better part of my life. So, and there you go. You can make quick work out of that. We're still going to have to use the hand drilling jig on the back panel, because this thing only reaches in probably about 1.5 inches, so I'll show you how we'll do that here next. Okay, we got the 2 sides on the cabinet. So the next problem, well, not a problem, next step is we got to get holes drilled up on the inside of this pilaster here. So if you look at this jig, this is just a Rockler jig. Comes with a bit, basically like a Vicks bit. It sits in his pocket, it drills your hole. In this case, we're putting 5mm in. You can do 1/4 inch too. What I had done is I made up this little block of wood, and you can make up anything you want, but this here puts that thing directly in line with the first hole. So now this will follow this. Otherwise, if you did this, your holes would be out this much and your shelves would not be supported. So with that being said, we're just going to follow the edge. We're going to bring this guide down until this block of wood is flush with the bottom of the rail. And we're going to start at the first hole, just holding this by hand. Drill your first hole. Now, your first 5mm lineup, you're going to go ahead and set your pin in there. And all we're going to do now is just keep this in line. Doesn't matter, you're not going to see it from the inside, but it's just nice to do neat work. And we're just going to follow these up. I used this for years before I could afford the big toys you've seen. Now when I'm doing a bunch of cabinets, I do have a way to drill these on that machine over there, but I'm doing one cabinet, so it would make no sense to do all that figuring just for what we did here in about a minute. So we're going to go ahead and drill this side, and we're going to go ahead and get a bottom cut, and we'll show you how we start assembling the rest of this cabinet. Talk to you then. Okay, we're going to put the bottom of the cabinet in, and I made up, this is for drawing your lines for the back and the bottom and the top, so it's already predetermined. All you do is just real simple, then you turn it to the back, and this will guarantee that staple is going to go where it needs to go. So that's a nice little tip there. Now the bottom, what I had done here, I'm going to try to slide some stuff so you can actually see what I'm doing here. Now what I had done on that bottom is put some pocket holes in it, because this is going to bite into the frame on the bottom side of it. So we're going to go ahead and put this bottom of the cabinet in, and very hard to film without somebody helping, but let's see here. And all I'm going to use is 1/4 inch crown staples, so, and a lot of glue. And if I can't stress glue enough, I don't know what else I can stress in cabinet making. But so what you want to do, glue up your two sides, and I just try to follow a line approximately where this is going to sit. I mean, some people might get a little worried about that, but once you put them pocket holes in there, it's not going to go nowhere. So what we're going to do is just get these in the slots. And I build my cabinet onto the frame. Some people do it the opposite way. So I got my staple gun, and this is a 1/4 crown staple, and we're going to make sure that the bottom of the cabinet from the inside is nice and tight, and we're just going to about 4 staples, and that is going to be more than enough to hold that. And then I'm going to come over to the other side here. It's nice when you put tools where you know where they're at. The same thing, we're just going to draw our lines. I mean, if you want to lay them out yourself every time and draw them, how about it? And that glue, it starts to hold pretty quick, so you don't got too much time. I like the yellow glue. It's a lot faster acting. And then we're done with that step. Now we're going to go to our pocket holes. And like I said, I drilled right through the bottom of that plywood. What you have to do now is, looking on the inside of the cabinet, you want to hold that margin. And it's all by eyeball. You don't have to get too crazy on it. But keep in mind, as you're pulling this screw, it might slide up a little bit. So you want to just until it's snug. And then just work these across. And you'll see it get nice and tight. Okay, we'll go ahead and finish putting these screws in, and we'll be ready for the back of the cabinet. We'll talk to you then. Okay, the back of the cabinet poses the same problem as we had on our inside of the frame. So we have to drill 2 sets of holes to correspond with our 2 intermediate rails there. So we're going to do is just get this gauge lined back up again, this time with the framing square, so the holes are running in an upright position. You don't want them coming up diagonal. Okay, we're going to just drill the first hole. And we're going to line it back up with the square. And we're just going to just hold down on it. Times like this, appreciate all your big machines. And one more. Okay. We'll repeat this process on this side, and we'll be ready to put the back in. The back. So we're going to get the glue. I got the panel laying here, and put some glue in the slot. You want a little bit of glue in the back here. It will wipe up, so you don't need to worry about it interfering with stain or anything. Okay, just that simple. And making sure that you got this back panel in the right position, because don't forget, we drilled them holes. And if you cut everything properly, through magic, it fits. Okay, now, again, like I said, what we're trying to do is make sure that the interior, so what I'd like to do is get in there with a putty knife, and when you pull this thing down, that inside will be perfect. So we're going to start with the back of the cabinet. You don't need to go crazy with staples. So once that glue dries, okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side before we come across this bottom. So, a big workbench is better than a small workbench. Okay, this bottom don't want to. There it goes. Sometimes you have to talk to things. Okay, again, go back to your corner, making sure that that is absolutely tight. And go ahead and tack it. I'm going to come to the top, making sure it's in there properly, and tack it. Now we're just going to work this down. We're using 1 1/4 inch long staples, 1/4 crown. Okay, now let's get that middle nice and tight. And just keep working it down with the putty knife. Okay, we should be pretty good to go on the inside. And I'll bring the camera over and show you. Got a little bit of glue to clean up. But other than that, we're all set to go here. So we're going to go ahead and clean up that little excess glue. And now we're going to go ahead and turn this cabinet up, or right side up, and start working on the top and the actual the hanging rails that are going to hold the countertop down. So we'll catch you there. Okay, we're going to put the 2 top rails in. I don't put a full top in any base cabinet. A lot of companies just put a little corner gusset in. I'm putting in a full strip. It takes a lot of this shake out of it. So again, start out with glue, and of course it would be plugged when you need it. So you want to glue this. Now we already put the layout lines on it, so and this gets rid of some scrap rippings around the shop. And it's a nice tight fit. If you were going to put a full top in, you would have to do that before you put the back on, or else you'll never get this in here. So we're going to make sure everything's nice and tight. I'm going to start on an end. I'm going to come back to this side, making sure it's seated all the way in. And we're just going to work this. Yep, we'll work this all the way down, just making sure. All right, we're going to do the same thing to the front, and it's going to get a couple pocket holes in it. So we'll go ahead and finish this part up, and we'll be with you here in a second. Okay, we got the basic cabinet built. That is the actual, just a basic cabinet. We still have one thing we have to do on the bottom, and if anybody can guess what that is, no toe kick. Yes, it has a toe kick. I don't cut my toe kicks out of the side panel. I quit doing that years ago. I found that the toe kicks is only as strong as this joint right here, and if you give that thing a good whack, it can come off pretty darn easy. So I build my toe kicks out of 3/4 inch plywood, and they literally go in between the two sides. I go 2 1/4 inches back on all my standard toe kicks. And then it steps in a little bit. It gives it more dimension. It looks nicer when it's done. So that'll be part of our next episode here. We're going to do the drawer boxes. We're going to do the toe kick. And we got some doors to make and drawer fronts. And then probably the third one, I think I'm going to get into a little bit of finish. So this will get a sprayed lacquer finish on it. I mean, this is a real kitchen cabinet. So I hope everybody enjoyed something different for a change, besides getting logs sawed up. But that wood did come from our mill, so this wood started out at that sawmill, and this is where it ultimately ends up at and gets used for something as far as a good product of either kitchen cabinets, furniture, flooring, you name it, it would get used for something. So I will talk to everybody on our next episode of The Cabinet. Bye-bye.